Number 2, the attack was going to involve airplanes. 3, some of the individuals in charge of carrying out this attack were already in place in the United States. 4, the attack was going to be carried out soon, in a few months. The agents who received this information reported it to their supervisor, Special Agent in charge of counterterrorism, Thomas Fields, at the FBI Washington Field Office. No action was taken by the special agent in charge, and after 9/11, the agents and the translators were told to keep quiet regarding this issue. The translator who was present during the session with the FBI informant, Mr. Behrouz Sarshar, reported this incident to Director Mueller in writing and later to the Department of Justice Inspector General. After almost 3 years since September 11th, many officials still refuse to admit having specific information regarding the terrorist plans to attack the United States. The Phoenix memo received months prior to the 9/11 attack specifically warned FBI headquarters of pilot training and their possible link to terror activities against the United States. 4 months prior to the terrorist attack, the Iranian asset provided the FBI with specific information regarding the use of airplanes, major U.S. cities, and Osama bin Laden issuing the order. Colleen Rowley likewise reported that same specific information had been provided to FBI headquarters. Only 1 month after the catastrophic events of September 11th, while many agents were working around the clock to obtain leads and to investigate those responsible for the attack, those with possible connections to the attack, and those who might be planning possible future attacks, the bureaucratic administrators in the FBI's largest and most important translation unit were covering up their past failures, blocking important leads and information, and jeopardizing ongoing terrorist investigations. The supervisor involved with this incident, Mike Fegali, was in charge of certain important Middle Eastern languages within the FBI Washington Field Office, and he had a record of previous misconducts. After the supervisor, several severe misconducts were reported to the FBI's higher-level management. After his conducts were reported to the Inspector General's office, to the United States Congress, and to the 9/11 Commission, he was promoted to include the FBI's Arabic language unit under his supervision. Today, this supervisor, Mike Fegali, remains in the FBI Washington Field Office and is in charge of a language unit receiving those chit-chats that our color-coded threat system is based upon. Yet, your report contains zero information regarding these systemic problems that led us to our failure in preventing the 9/11 terrorist attack. In your report, there are no references to individuals responsible for hindering past and current investigations or those who are willing to compromise our security and our lives for their career advancement and security. During its many hearings, your commission chose not to ask the questions necessary to unveil the true symptoms of our failed intelligence system. Your commission intentionally bypassed these severe symptoms and chose not to include them in its 567-page report. Now, without a complete list of our failures pre-9/11, without a comprehensive examination of true symptoms that exist in our intelligence system, without assigning any accountability whatsoever, and therefore without a sound and reliable diagnosis, your commission is attempting to divert attention from the real problems and to prescribe a cure through hasty and costly measures. It is like attempting to put a gold-lined expensive porcelain cap over a deeply decayed tooth with a rotten root, without first treating the root and without first cleaning the infected tooth. Sincerely, Sibyl Edmonds.
I love that analogy. I'm going to pick up some of these analogies. They're great for talk. That's a good note.
I have spoken with Sibyl because what I uncovered in PTEC connects with some of the things that she has discovered. Sibyl is not allowed to disclose content, but she can ask me questions. I know some of the things that she mentioned there connect directly to what I discovered, and so it was my pleasure to read Sibyl's letter. If there are any questions, if not, I'll go into my presentation.
Go into your presentation.
I'm sorry.
You can have this one.
I apologize.
Oh, that's all right.
As I said before, I'm a New Yorker. I'm from Ground Zero. I live and work down there for 10 years, and around 9/11, I was doing work on Wall Street for a large bank and in D.C. for a DARPA, which is a Defense Advanced Research project agency, for a project of theirs. Therefore, I had connections deep within the government and at high levels in the banking community. I call this the FBI and PTEC a case to answer. I believe Mike Rupert has mentioned a couple of things regarding technology capabilities that he believes and has had confirmed were going on during 9/11. I believe if you listen to this presentation carefully, you will begin to connect a lot more dots. For me, 9/11 will always be about the 3,000 that we lost there and the shocking truths that we have begun to discover in the troubled years since. Pictured here, since it is my backyard, is one of the final pictures of the South Tower right before it came down, taken by a neighbor of mine, Ted, who said he could be here today, but he isn't. Ground Zero was my backyard. It hit the residents down there very differently than I think it hit people in other cities. My journey of the FBI and PTEC is one that started after 9/11, way after 9/11, but it took me to the White House, 2 senators' offices, the Secret Service, the FBI, 3 connections to organized crime. But first, I want to take you to where it did begin for me. On the morning of September the 11th, I was supposed to be on the 106th floor of the World Trade Center at a risk conference that a company by the name of Risk Waters was putting on. I was late that morning. In many ways, I think that my life was spared, and I get to do this today on their behalf. It is my privilege to think that. Prior to 9/11, I was a civilian EMT, and when the planes hit, I called my job and I said I had just turned into an EMT. I changed my clothes and I headed down to the site. As night fell on September 11th, 2001, I was on triage duty on the edge of the pile. That's a picture of me. I think I had been injured at that point, but I was not a happy camper. None of us were, because a lot of us were wondering where all the help was. Those of us who were right on the pile were in dire straits. In any case, rescue workers were transporting body parts as fast as they could, wherever they could, mainly to the triage sites, and they were placing what they found anywhere, including on the floor next to me. It was clear to me, and I'm sorry I have to make this graphic, but the truth, 9/11 has been so sanitized, I think it needs to be understood that most had died horrific deaths. And we were seeing evidence of what some had been through on the flights. I made a promise to something I saw there, that if anything fell into my lap, I would not look the other way. I would do whatever I could to prevent such a horror from happening again. After a week, I returned fairly injured to what was left of my contaminated neighborhood and my life. I had a good life. I did risk at JP Morgan Chase. Just to take a break from all the heavy stuff, what I do was to devise a way to monitor everything going on in a very large company to stop big problems from happening. There's that little cloud there and my very bizarre picture of how I think about this problem. I am a person who was merging 2 disciplines, risk management and something called enterprise architecture, which is fairly esoteric, but at the end of the day, we seek to prevent large problems from happening anywhere in a large global enterprise.